What's up, y'all? Today we're going to be building a scalable game mode system that lets you change the game rules during runtime. The context here is that we're making a game that has a lot of game modes or level variations. Think something like Call of Duty. There's tons of game modes like Team Deathmatch, Search and Destroy, Kill Confirmed, and a bunch more. They also have variations for maps, like time of day or weather variants. What we don't want to do is duplicate maps and change different characteristics or the game mode manually like you see here on screen. Doing this increases the amount of future work you'll have to do dramatically. Every time you'd need to change something in a map, whether that be layout, spawns, or some collision fix, you'll need to do it for all of the other maps that share that same geometry. That obviously just isn't going to scale. So instead, we'll build a system that allows us to change game modes dynamically and pass in some other details like time of day when we load the level. That way, we only need one map that can work for all game modes and variants. Even though we're building around one specific use case, this is a general purpose pattern that can be used in hundreds of ways. I'll list out some other cool ways to use this at the end of the video. Okay, so let's get started. All we have in this project is this empty test level. Nothing else is in here. We'll be building everything else from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do is create our base game mode class. Now this class is going to have all of our implementation that we need in every single other game mode. So stuff like game rules, functions for winning the game, spawning the player, and we'll likely be wanting to override a lot of those implementations in our children classes. But anything we need for all of our game modes will be in this class. For the purpose of this video, all we're actually going to be putting in here is our game mode rules data asset. So let's make our game mode rules data asset. So we're going to make a new folder for data. So here we're going to create a new blueprint class based on the primary data asset class. And we'll name it PDA game mode rules. So let's open that up. So the two variables that we're going to be needing, the first one is our game mode name, and this will be a string. And then we're just going to have score to win. To be honest, we're not really going to be using this in the tutorial very much, but the point is that you want to put any additional variables in here that changes depending on the game mode. So now in our game mode base, we're going to make our variable for game mode rules, and that is going to be of type PDA game mode rules. So now in our game mode base, just to prove that this is working, in our begin play, we are going to print string the game mode rules name. So all this is doing for us is no matter what child game mode we're in, it's just going to, on begin play, print the name of that asset. So now we're going to create some data assets for our actual game modes. So it's going to be of type PDA game mode rules. And here we're just going to make a base game mode first. So here base and score to win, we'll just say 800. And now we can plug in our base game mode class. So now we'll duplicate our DA base and we'll make two game modes. First off is Conquest. So we'll give it the name of Conquest and we can keep the score to 800. That's fine here. And then we'll make DA King of the Hill. Once again, give it its name of King of the Hill and we'll change the score to something like 200. So now we can actually create our child game modes, the ones that we're going to be using in our configurations, passing in through the main menu. So here we have game mode King of the Hill. It's a child of GM base. And all we're going to do is we're going to show inherited variables. And we are going to change our game mode rules data asset to the correct data asset that we made a minute ago. And then we'll do the same for the Conquest game mode. So BP GM Conquest. And once again, here we don't need the full blueprint editor. We can just set our Conquest game mode rules. to show that this is all working, we're going to pull up our world settings and we're going to set our game mode override to our base class. And if we hit play here, we'll actually see base be printed at the top left of the screen. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new empty level, and this is going to act as our main menu level. Could be a lobby or some kind of match setup level, but just for simplicity, it's going to be our main menu, and our UI here is going to be super simple. Once again, this is not a widget UI tutorial, so we're going to make this super fast, and it's not going to look pretty, but the functionality is the main concept here. So widget blueprint main menu, let's open that up, and we're just going to get ourselves a canvas panel in here and a couple buttons. Let's add some text to the button, and we'll wrap that in a vertical box. Duplicate it, and just for a nice look, we'll add a spacer. So now with our vertical box, we will size it to content, and we will just stick it right in the middle of the screen. Don't really have to be doing this, but just to make it look nice and organized. So for our first button, it'll be Conquest. And our second button will be King of the Hill. So when we click these buttons, we want to launch the level, our test level, with those game modes selected. So we need to obviously make these variables, and we'll give it a nice name for both of these buttons so that we can actually have our on-clicked events. So now going over to the graph, we will add these on-clicked events for both of our buttons. So we're going to be using open level by name whenever we hit one of these buttons, and the level name is just going to be level_test. In open level by name, we have options, that string that we can pass in. So this is where most of our magic is going to happen. This is where we can actually pass in a game mode to run, and other custom options, which we'll talk about soon here in a minute. So in order to use our options to pass in a new game mode, we're going to follow this exact format. So we are going to first start with our level name, so level_test, and then a question mark. Now the question mark is important. That tells the options that we're moving on to a new option. So question mark, then the name of the option, and then an equals, and then after that will be the actual option that we're passing in. So in this case, it'll be question mark game equals, and then we need the file path for our game mode. So in my case, it's game blueprints game mode. Then we need the name of the class, so BP_game mode_conquest, and then a period, and then we need the name of the actual reference, so BP game mode conquest.c, or sorry, _c, and that tells the game the exact game mode that we want to pass in. And now we can just duplicate this to the King of the Hill on-clicked and change the name of the class. So just to King of the Hill rather than Conquest. Since the files are in the same spot, nothing else actually changes. We do need to make sure we spell this correctly with the right capitalization and everything. So let's compile and save that, and now we need to actually put this on the screen. So just for testing purposes, we're going to do this in the level blueprint. So we're going to construct a new widget. It's going to be our main menu. And we will just add it to viewport. Compile and save that. And now when we go into the game, we have our two buttons. And when we press Conquest, we load into the Conquest level, and you can see in the top left, it prints Conquest. Same thing for King of the Hill. So that's proving that our game mode base is changing to the proper game mode that we want based on the level options that we're passing in during runtime. And if we remove our option here for Conquest, you'll see base gets printed instead. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to show you quickly one of the ways you can do some custom options. And this is where it really, this pattern really starts to expand, and you have a lot more ways you can use this system. So for this example, we're just going to change these buttons to day and night, and we're going to have just a day and night variant. It's not going to look very pretty, but just for the example, we're just going to change the directional light's intensity. So here, all we're going to do is we're going to add a new option. So remember what I said earlier, the question mark shows the game options that we're going to a new option. So it's going to be question mark time of day equals, and in this case, day. And for our other option, we're just going to add to the end of it, question mark time of day equals night. And both of these are loading our conquest game mode. So if we go back to our test level, we will just make some super unpolished day and night system. There's obviously 100 better ways to do this, but just for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to make this super simple. So we're going to create a reference to our directional light in the scene. And then we are going to get our game mode. Now our game options are stored in the game mode. So no matter what system needs to access our options, you just need to get game mode and then get the option strings like you see here. So after you get the option string, you just look for the node parse options. Then you can pass in the actual key, so in our case, time of day, and it'll return to you the actual string that we passed in. So just to show you this is working, we'll print the string. And then to actually change the day and night, in our case, again, there's many better ways to do this, but for simplicity's sake, we're going to do it this way. We're going to switch on string, and we're looking for day or night. And then with our directional light, we're just going to set the intensity of the light component. And for day, we can just do something like 10, which I think is default. And for night, we'll just do 0.5. Now, this isn't going to look very good, but hopefully you understand we're just trying to get the idea behind this rather than how to make a day and night atmosphere. And it's also a good idea to tie in the default pin just in case when you open a level, you don't actually pass in a time of day. In our case here, if we don't do that, we will just set the game to daytime. So if we now go back to our main menu and we play, we will see we have two buttons for day and night. And when we hit night, we'll actually load into a conquest level and it'll be nighttime. A very ugly looking nighttime atmosphere, but you get the idea. And if we end play and we hit day instead, you'll obviously see conquest day. So that's really all there is to this system. It's super simple, but it's a major upgrade to our workflow for games that need to scale up the amount of maps or game mode variants. Now, you could absolutely use this in more ways than I showed here today. Using custom options allows you to do stuff like weather variants, difficulty, game rules like friendly fire, world seeds, save slots, spawn locations, max AI count, the list just keeps going. It's really just a way to pass in runtime configuration into a level. So if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll see y'all next time.